Hello and welcome to the show. This is indeed a sponsored video, and we were kind of tasked with a little bit of a challenge here to see how quickly or how much faster I could be got on the new F1 2022 game by a professional kind of driver coach. We had Scott from Driver 61 trying to help us go faster. Now, regular viewers will know Formula 1 cars, not my strong suit. In general, when the cars start getting faster, when the cars start relying on more and more downforce, kind of aerodynamics for their grip, I tend to struggle with them more. I don't quite know what it is about the way I drive cars in video games, etc., but high downforce cars, I am not very good with, and it has been that way for a long time. I would love to know why. But, yeah. These are not my forte whatsoever. This is not racing drivers. This is just genuinely, I'm not as fast in comparative terms as I am when it comes to the lower downforce cars. So we're going to be an interesting challenge to see what I could maybe manage to do with the vehicles. And I was going into this game having not really played it, which is always a nice challenge. Try and learn the new game and everything. So we're going for Silverstone here as the venue for some hot lapping. I mean, it's always difficult jumping into a Formula 1 car. They are so fast. They are so unbelievably fast compared to everything else. Immediately, almost managed to have a spin. Now, I do tend to run the F1 games with ABS on and sort of medium traction control. I am playing on a controller for this, which is not the easiest thing. It is possible to drive. It is certainly not the easiest of methods. It's some of the fine movements that are a little bit difficult on the control. I mean, I got a little bit too aggressive with the throttle. These are very, very powerful vehicles. It is very easy to get them sideways. It's very easy to get them upset if you are just a little bit too greedy. I mean, there is huge amounts of grip, of course there is. And this first time around was a bit of a just trying to figure out what the car could do between some kind of low-speed oversteery moments and. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a learning experience, of course. You've got to try and figure out what you can and what you can't do with this with this car, what you can get away with. I know Silverstone is a fairly quick track in a lot of places, actually. But, yeah, it's still a kind of a learning as you go through Maggots and Beckett's here. Try and make sure get the car sort of stopped and turned through all of this. Actually quite neat and tidy. For a first attempt, it certainly wasn't too terrible for all of that, and we blast off down the hanger straight, down the long straight, get the car turned, and it's still a little bit too early on the brakes. So, yeah, I mean, there was kind of learning of braking points, learning where you can put the car, where you can't, and all of that. I was, let's say, concerned. It was having to be very careful with the throttle in some zones. I mean, naturally, that's going to be important with any car, whatever it is you're racing. And that did take a little bit of getting used to. Yeah, I was struggling a bit with the oversteer, and next time around we had a little bit more trouble with the oversteer. I mean, there was kind of two things really factoring into it. First of all, my tendency to be jumping on the throttle a little bit too soon, and the other thing is that I just hadn't got the turning points sorted. So I was kind of turning in too soon, having to change my mind, and wasn't really being smooth with the car. And in Formula 1 terms, you need to be really as smooth as possible. As you can see, even with the traction control on medium, it was very easy to upset the vehicle. Once you're in the sort of 6th, 7th, 8th gear corners, that's fine. You don't have a problem really with the with the traction, if you like. The other thing, I mean, I managed to invalidate a number of laps. In the time trial mode here, the game is very, very precise, shall we say, with its track limits. I would have said at least I had a wheel on the circuit for quite a lot of these where it will fail you. Like, as long as I have a wheel on one side of the yellow line, there's a little bit more dicey. That was mostly on the curb, I think. Yellow line, white line, I mean, sorry. So, yeah, sometimes I got good laps a little bit messed up by that. And I ran for a little while. I will say, and this was one of my first experiences of this game, there was some differences to get used to. I've played all the Formula 1 games. I did take a few trips across the gravel, and when you come back on the circuits, I feel like the sort of dusty tyres was a bigger thing than I've seen in previous games. It felt like it had a little bit of a bigger impact. Now, admittedly, you're not supposed to be going visiting the grass and the gravel and all of that sort of thing along the way. However, when I did do that, it was quite a noticeable thing. And the cars were definitely different to drive. And I couldn't give you all the really fine details, mostly because I'm not experienced enough or fast enough with these cars to give you all the very, very fine details. But I can tell you they are, I mean, they're a rewarding challenge to try and drive. But they are different. It does feel considerably different to the previous games I played in terms of figuring out how to get these cars around a circuit. It is easy to make mistakes. I feel like these are easier to make mistakes in than I've dealt with for a while. Mostly I was having oversteer issues with the Ferrari, as we've seen here. That was the majority of the time. I mean, I started to get a little bit more the hang of the car here, starting to figure out what I was doing, and as we rounded the final corner, we got down to 31.7, which that was the time for this sort of a basic thing. So we went away, we had a little chat with Scott, and the main piece of advice that was given to me was something that I hadn't actually really thought about, but it's all to do with where I was looking, essentially. With the speed of Formula 1 cars is something that I've struggled with in the past, and trying to get the hang of that is, I say, not the easiest thing. Essentially, I wasn't looking far enough ahead in the corners, which, as it is, absolutely not something I've ever thought about before when driving a Formula 1 car. I never really thought about sort of where my vision is going, but if you look further ahead, further around the corner that you are heading to, it is easier to, I say, make the most of that speed. It is easier to position the car where you want, because that's the precision with the Formula 1 car is where you're going to get a lot of the lap speed. And if you're only looking like just immediately in front of you, which is, I think, the trap that I was falling into a lot, you're kind of not able to react fast enough to the speed that the car is capable of. Now, it'll take a little bit of getting used to. That is, you're kind of always changing, not entirely how you drive, but you are changing what you try to do with the car, and it's easy to fall back into old ways, if you like. So I set out again to try, essentially look further ahead in the lap. It was recommended a couple of seconds almost up the road to try and look to where you want to be positioning the car. I set out the vehicle for the next run. I ran it with a slightly higher downforce setup. So I'm only using the presets at the moment. Ran the car with a higher downforce preset. My hope was to just try and deal with that oversteer. That was something that had plagued me a little bit, and I'd struggled with that. I figured run a little bit higher downforce would hopefully solve some of those issues. And I have to say, the advice was very, very good. I found, again, it was easy to fall back into old habits at times just because it was almost automatically comfortable, but it was easier being consistent. It was easier to try and be neat and tidy with the car when you were looking that little bit further down the road. It didn't feel significantly different trying to do this. It made a few of the corners that smidge easier, especially at the end of the hangar straight. That was where one of the places I was having the most trouble with trying to get right. And so, by no means perfect when it comes to this sort of thing. Absolutely by no means perfect. We got down to a 30.1. There's some serious, I say serious speed. There's a good improvement actually from. The main thing that was changing here was, just said where I was looking. Yes, we did have a little bit more downforce. Although downside of that one is that we then were losing out a little bit on the straights. Again, the game very quick to tell you off, which annoying. I say quick to tell you off. I mean, I knew and I should know better than to, I guess, be that aggressive over the curve. Precision is still a challenge, most definitely, with this, but the corners where I was having the most difficulty, this just a simple thing like just trying to look further down the road did make actually a really, really big difference. I mean, this lap, unfortunately, things were going better. It was a great lap. I'm so annoyed that I managed to bobble over the curb. Actually got down to 29.9 on that one. It was just through the first part of Maggots there that I got myself in trouble. Not best pleased with that one. It was silly by me. Running this high downforce set, actually, I was incredibly consistent as well. Very regularly running in the low 1 minute 30s, and 29s were very, very possible. Now, I decided to go the other way for a little bit of a, investigation out of curiosity to see. The theory is with the lower downforce, you were going to be able to go fast down the straights, and Silverstone is a quick circuit. But you would be a bit more of a handful in the corners. I almost immediately see. I straight away drove the car like I was when it was high downforce, and yeah, that doesn't work. That really doesn't work. But I was using the same sort of braking points and turning points that I had been using. Nope, we do not have the grip. We just don't have the same grip in the car. I mean, that is to be expected, of course, but yeah, that wasn't quite going to work. Of course, the trade-off is when you do get it out of the corners, down these straights, I mean, you can see the delta time, how quickly that comes tumbling down. This was another corner here, can't remember the name of it, I should know better. That corner there was one of the main ones that sort of, the further I looked ahead, made it just much easier to get a nice line through there. By no means, this is not going to be perfect Formula 1 driving. I'm very, very well aware of that. I still have much to learn with these kind of cars. There's still a fair way outside of my comfort zone, these vehicles, but it was a good place to start. I mean, this lap actually was quite a bad first sector, but you can see here, you can see as far as the delta time goes, I actually end up messing up through the exit there. Just, again, trying to carry the same sort of speed that I had been previously, and the car the front end just wouldn't quite stick to the circuit. And yeah, we were gaining speed in different places. Actual lap speed overall, I was expecting similar times, if maybe a little bit faster, if I could manage to string it all together. Of course, with less downforce, it was easier to make mistakes. As we'd seen on my very first runs with this car, where I was struggling with being a little too aggressive with the throttle. Similar problems were going on here. Again, a good lap ruined right at the death by me getting a wobble coming up towards the final corner. Very frustrating when you ruin that hot lap on the final corner. Really, really annoying. And yeah, then trying to make up time. It was a wobble, a little bit wide. I mean, that's not the worst of accidents. Not the worst of accidents that I would have either. But that was the challenge. I felt like the low downforce setup was a little faster. I felt like this was the way that I wanted to go almost with the car. I liked the extra straight line speed, but it was tougher, and I was struggling more with the consistency. And off we go again for a semi-spin. Managed to gather it all back up, but yeah, it was about now trying to, almost try and find a different way to, not quite a different way to drive the car, but it was just learning new braking points. Now this lap, I managed to completely beans up the final corner, which annoyingly does then also invalidate this lap. We actually had a monstrous sort of first sector. I then immediately throw it away. If you put all the fastest sectors together, I could be half decent. I just couldn't even, try my best, even trying all the different kind of techniques, if you will. I still struggle a little bit with consistency. An element controller is a smidge of a struggle. I think it is a little more difficult. I think it's a lot more difficult to be consistent. You can be very fast on a controller, there is no doubt about it. Certainly, I struggle to have that level of consistency when I am running on a controller. But I mean, this lap kind of started off okay. It's kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit. Play very risky with the curves through there. I will say, if you're running with damage on with this one, the floor is very, very easy to damage. So on time trial, you don't have any damage. I have played around a little bit as well. I mean, as Verstappen found out in the actual Grand Prix, the floor is very, very easy to break. So hitting curbs is going to be, if you're running on like full simulation damage, you've got to be so careful. And of course, the floor on these cars nowadays is so sensitive with all the undercar aero. I mean, this lap time, it was a little bit freeform in terms of the curbs, I'm not going to lie. In some places, we came around, I mean, it was a 30.0. And it was a 30.0, and that had been a smidge scruffy in places. Sort of the first sector had been a bit iffy. Well, this sort of turn 3 had been iffy, and just, yeah, trying to get all of the sectors put together to go quickly was proving a real faff for me. And it was frustrating. I say it was frustrating. No, I like the challenge. I just am not the best when it comes to this sort of car. We'd had a good lap up until this point, and then lost the back end I don't think it was going to be. It might have been a low 1:30 on that one, and I knew I was having a good lap, and I was just trying to be too greedy. I was just trying to get on that throttle a little bit too soon, and it's really dumb. It's a really dumb way to end a hot lap, that one, just because you're being a smidge too greedy. It was predominantly the final couple of corners I was having trouble with, although it wasn't the only place. I was on a half-decent lap and just wandered a bit wide to manage to invalidate my lap. That was a very, very sort of silly wandering wide. I mean, Magnussen-Beck is a very, very high-speed section here, so you try to be as precise as possible all the way through here, but it's easy to just get a little bit too much understeer, and then that's that gone. Because you want to you really don't want to have that level of understeer, because you want to carry as much speed as you can all the way down the straight. I mean, the now lack of downforce means we can make up some of the lap time down here, but yeah, could have and should have been a lot better through all of that. It was, yeah, say it was hard going. I definitely improved. As got the car bobbling around and managed to piss all away the time in the final sector there. I definitely did improve, and yeah, the whole looking further through the circuit was a piece of advice that I've never really thought about, but definitely did prove helpful. The higher downforce, able to be more consistent with the car, even though I think the lower downforce was faster way to go, if I could ever manage to string everything together as we do some celebratory donuts. This was definitely an interesting experience. That is for sure. A big thank you to everyone who set this up, and thank you to Scott for taking part in this one and for giving some very solid advice. I do like the game, I have to say. I like the challenge with these cars. They are difficult beasts to drive. There is no doubt about it. They are very, very difficult, and yeah, trying to be as precise as possible with these cars and try and get lap speed was good fun, and frustrating at times when I kept managing to do stupid things myself and throw it in a wall somewhere. But yeah, that's me being frustrated at myself in this one. But we did improve, you know. I've had a good amount of time at the end of the day. I definitely think 29s, even 28s could if I put all my best sectors together, I probably could. Just trying to actually start getting down to that speed consistently. It's going to take me a while on that one. But there we go. That is indeed going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to EA for sponsoring this one as well. That shall be it from me. Until next time, goodbye.